My name is Blair. I'm pastor at Waypoint, and we're back talking about how do you parent adult kids. Last week we talked about the understanding of making sure that you're in the right phase of parenting with that kid. We're assuming that you've moved to peer-to-peer relationships and all that's left for you is influence. And if that's the case, I want to talk to you about that influence because I think there's a couple different types of influence that you have that I've seen operate in relationships that are acceptable. The first is a type of influence where they come and ask you for advice. Now, I think if you've made your way through the process of parenting, where you've done those other three phases and you've gotten to a place where they've been sharing their values with you and that sort of thing, you've had some good give and take, and so they will seek you out. And they will ask your advice, and boy, that is the best. I mean, the downside of this kind of influence is that you have to wait to be asked. You have to be on the sidelines, kind of being quiet, until they come to you and say, can you tell me what you did or how you did it? And I just want to tell you, when that happens, the floodgates have opened for you. You are free to share exactly what you did wrong, what you did right, the opinions that you have, the mistakes that you felt you made. I would say it this way. I want to get this right. In full influence mode, you're bold and real. And you have the ability to share everything that you want with them because they asked for that conversation. It's a gift. And so that's the kind of thing that you're trying to get to. In a peer-to-peer relationship, somebody asks, and you can now influence by sharing everything that you've experienced, all the stuff that you believe and think, that's on the table. Now, there's a second type of influence that you can make yourself available to. It should be less often, and it's more risky. And that's sharing influence that's not asked for. They didn't come and seek it out, but you would do this in the case of you see a major disruption in their life coming if you don't warn them. And so you get the courage up and you go and you warn them. And I will tell you, when it comes to this type of influence, you have to have a key motivation in place. Otherwise, this thing falls completely apart. If it smells like any of the other parenting styles at all, your kids will have a hard time hearing this kind of influence. But if it can be motivated by one key thing, you're going to be okay. I want to read this to you. This is in 1 Peter chapter 4, verse 8. It says, above all, love each other deeply, because love covers a multitude of sins. Love covers a multitude of sins. Love has to be the motive. It has to be the thing that you use when you go and warn. Love ends up being this protective covering in the conversation where you're offering up your advice and you're doing that. Even if they don't listen to you, you've done it out of a source of love. And oftentimes that comes across by you simply presenting what you think and then allowing them to take it from there, if you can do that. What's interesting to me is that phrase, covers a multitude of sins, is actually used another time in the scriptures in kind of a similar way. I want you to hear this. In James chapter 5, verse 20, it says, whoever turns a sinner from the error of their way will save them from death and cover over a multitude of sins. And we hear that and we're like, yes, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm going to them and I'm presenting my view because I'm trying to protect them from making a mistake. I'm trying to cover multitudes of sin by if they would listen to me. But here's what's so cool about this idea of influence, right? Is that if you go with the right motive, which is love, and they listen to you, let's say they heed your warning, they're protected from a multitude of sin. But you know what the scriptures say? What if they don't heed your warning? They're protected by a multitude of sin by your love. So there's a win-win kind of thing going on here if you can go with the right motive. If you can genuinely approach them with love during that season of influence, you could be asked and share it all, or you could simply approach them in genuine love. And if they didn't listen to you and they still wreck their lives, your love becomes an opportunity to cover a multitude of sins. You get to protect them because of this. I love this. And I've watched this kind of go backwards sometimes with parents, is they actually don't respond with love. They want their way. They want to be in control. They want their values lived out. And when they don't see that, they pressure and stress. My wife and I have created a term that we use for this kind of influence. We tell each other that we're playing the long game. God gave us 18 to 22 years with our kids in our house. We had that amount of time. But if we're fortunate, if God gives us grace, we'll have another 40 years of time with our kids. And we want to use that time wisely. And we want to be influential during that whole 40-year period of time. And the only way that's going to work out is if we share boldly when we're asked. And we tell them the nitty-gritty, the things that we failed at, the things that we did right, the mistakes that we made, all of that kind of stuff when they come and ask for our influence. And it's only going to work when we decide to go to them and warn them about something if we understand they might not follow our advice. But no matter what, they'll meet our love. Our love will show up, even in their failure, even in their mistakes, and it will be a covering for them. And we get to do that for the next 40 years. That's the goal. So I hope you'll start to evaluate, where am I at in my relationship? Have I actually got motivation of love going on here? See, if all of your interactions are you going to them and warning and warning and warning and warning, it may be that you're not motivated by love towards them, but you're motivated by control. And I just want to warn you, there's two types of influence, and the least effective is you going to them, but the other one is the one that you grow and cultivate over time by simply being quiet and allowing that conversation to come to you.